I am blessed to be joining you today for an important conversation that may just save your life. I'm your host, Pastor Patrick Winfield, pastor of the campus of the Potter's House of Fort Worth. And joining me today is Dr. Carol Lee Estelle, MD, an infectious disease physician at UT Southwestern Medical Center, and the Associate Chief of Infection Prevention at Parkland, and a member of CV Roman Medical Society, the DFW chapter of NMA, and Dr. Wendy Parnell, who just happens to be my cousin, an OBGYN at Carlos and Parnell, and a member of the Dallas County Medical Center and National Medical Association. We know that the last 18 months have been hard on a lot of you. All of us have been impacted in fighting COVID-19. And there have been all kinds of media rumors and misinformation about COVID and the COVID vaccine circulating in our community. So today, I have invited Dr. Estelle and Dr. Parnell to give us real answers to real questions. These are questions that a lot of you have asked me, and so I wanted to bring in an expert or experts from our community to straighten things out for us. So Dr. Estelle and Dr. Parnell, treat our family members, our friends, neighbors, and have seen firsthand what COVID has done to people. They have also studied the science and are going to answer our top questions to dispel a number of rumors that you may have heard. Dr. Estelle and Dr. Parnell, welcome, first of all, to this conversation, and thank you so much for carving out some time to help us out in our community, to inform us and to empower us with the right information, which is very important for us. I've heard people tell me that the COVID vaccine can cause sterility in men and women. First of all, is that true? And what about concerns regarding women and future childbirth?
Excellent question, and I have also received that concern. In terms of sterility, there has been no connection between sterility in men or women related to the COVID vaccine. The COVID vaccine is surprisingly a very simple set of ingredients. So there are no metals, there are no latex, there is no eggs. So a lot of the things we sometimes would associate and be concerned about in a vaccine, there really are not in this COVID vaccine. And so I think we can have assurance in knowing that the ingredients are very safe and will not have any impact on fertility. In fact, in the midst of the pandemic and a lot of the quarantining, we have seen plenty of people getting very pregnant, having received the vaccine prior to conception. So I think we are safe, and we have enough evidence at this point to say that there is no connection between the vaccine and infertility. When we think about infertility, when we think about miscarriage, there's a numerous set of explanations, but the COVID vaccine is not one of them.
Gotcha. So, yes. Gotcha. So you being an OBGYN, one of the things that I've heard within our community, a high concern with mothers who are either pregnant or want to be pregnant and things of that nature. Is there anything that you can tell them that will kind of calm them in regards to receiving this vaccination, either pre or post, anything like that?
Absolutely. And I also talk about this on a daily basis. And I impress upon patients that, much like science, my opinion and my comfort has evolved. And I feel very, very confident in the COVID vaccine in pregnancy. So if someone would have asked me last summer, is the COVID vaccine going to be safe in pregnancy? I wouldn't have been able to explain or tell them how safe it was. Now we know. We know that it is safe prior to conception. We know it's safe throughout all of pregnancy, and it's actually encouraged. We've seen nothing but positive protective benefits to the babies even from receiving the vaccine. So those moms who've been vaccinated, those antibodies have been crossed over the placenta, and we test babies, and those protective antibodies are in the baby's system. Babies don't develop an immune system at time of birth, and so their best bet at protection is whatever antibodies mom has circulating. So if anything, it's highly protective for mom and for babies. Ladies who get COVID during pregnancy are twice as likely to be in the ICU. They're much higher risk of stillbirth. There's a much higher risk of preterm birth, which is associated with NICU admissions for the babies, and in terms of their compromises and battles that they would have to overcome from being delivered prematurely. So all things are pointing towards vaccination and pregnancy. And I've had patients in all phases of pregnancy get vaccinated and have not had a single adverse outcome. I always impress upon patients, we care for patients the way we want our own family members cared for. And I would never suggest to a patient a vaccine or any type of treatment that I wouldn't encourage for my own family members or my own friends. And this COVID vaccine does not fall short to that recommendation in terms of its safety during pregnancy.
Wow. Thank you so much for that. We needed to hear that. Dr. Estelle, in your profession and certainly in your research, there has been some concerns out there about how the vaccination, when it was being tested, was not necessarily tested on Black and brown people. And so can you give some calm concerning that and its impact in our communities today? That would it help? Is it something within the vaccine that will hurt us, that will impact our DNA or anything like that? Can you talk more about that?
Absolutely. And that's a really, really good and important question. And honestly, an exciting one to answer. So historically, when we look at vaccine clinical trials that assess the safety and efficacy, there have been very low inclusion of essentially diverse populations. We've seen Black participation in those clinical trials commonly in the 2% range. That's very, very common. For COVID vaccines, at the start of this, it's really important actually that people realize how intentional they were in the design of these. They had task forces that were put together at the beginning of each of these clinical trials to ensure that there was diverse inclusion for each of these clinical trials so that they could accomplish that question. And they did. So for each of the 3 clinical trials, we had a Black participation that was upwards of 10%, and in the 17% actually for J&J. And our Latinx community in J&J was 46% representation, and in the high to mid 20% for the other 2. So we had really, honestly, historic proportions of inclusiveness that really haven't been reached in the past. And I think it's also important to know that the mechanism or the way that these vaccines work, they don't interfere with our own DNA in any way at all. There's no COVID virus in them, not dead, not recombinant, not inactivated. There's no actual COVID virus in it, so you cannot get COVID infection from these vaccines, and they won't change any of your own DNA in any way.
Wow. Well, as we get ready to close this conversation, I want to say thank you guys so much for coming to us and helping us to dispel some of the myth. I know oftentimes when we are listening to everything or every person that's out there, we have a tendency to move away, not just from the science, but from those professionals who are actually working within the trenches to make sure that we are healthy and that we stay safe. And so thank you so much to both of you for being here with us. I hope those of you who are watching today will take this information and share it with friends and family. The vaccine is free and available at almost every drugstore, grocery store, pharmacy, or community clinic. If you cannot locate a vaccine, go online to dshs.texas.gov/COVID vaccine to find a location. We can and must protect ourselves. Please spread the word that getting vaccinated is the only way out of this pandemic. God bless you and be safe.